This is Pam Electric Ghost, and this is our continuing series of um, song deconstruction. I am a electronic music artist, and I create songs using the hardware workflow. And I just wrote a song a couple of days ago called Gramps. Um, I thought I was finished with Dark Ghost, but I keep on writing new songs. And Gramps kind of refers to the idea that like this older generation, kind of like an Archie Bunker, all in the family type of character. He's like sexist, he's xenophobic, he's racist, and he doesn't like the other. If you know what the other is, the other kind of represents, there are people who feel like all American is just nothing but people who are not different. They're the same. It's kind of like the Archie Bunker mentality, like you love America or leave it, and these other are agitators or outside agitators, they're bad people. They're liberal, they're Democrats. That's bad. So the idea is Graham's character is this person that really doesn't want to see a black or brown face in his neighborhood. He thinks that's the end of the world. If he sees that minorities moving in, he wants to move out. So that's what the idea of this story is in the song. And I do electronic music, and I just don't do dance beats. I do songs because I have a love of songwriting, and I like to, input Dylan-esque or Springsteen like songwriting stories. And so the story in here is this person that's kind of intolerant, and then Josephine's basically saying she's gonna, be going after him, and she's gonna be targeting him to reveal his lack of, modern day, I guess just accommodation or empathy with the other. And so she's aiming at him, and she's gonna take him out in some way. And so this song basically goes through that, and I used the Moog DFAM, which I love, the drummer from Another Mother, to create a really cool beat. Is a make noise morphogene is being used to to take a sample of my own material to be the bass structure of the song, and then I have my trusty Juno Roland doing some guitar, which I've learned how to do a pretty good guitar on the Roland. And so all my guitar work is actually done through that Roland synth. And I also am using the math utility module to do some kind of sonic goodness that we'll get into the secret sauce of it. But I have a Euro rack, an Arturia 6U, which I have actually going into a Arturia mini boot 2S, or a micro root. And it's just the micro boot is a revelation. The new version is a very cool machine. I initially was just using it to route my Euro rack because you can use the VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. And then I got a really cool device. Like if you get a Euro rack, you kind of need a mixing module. So I've got a Pittsburgh modular 2x4 mixing module that allows me to take the VCA signals from a DFAM, the VCA from my my Mother 32, and then also it able to take the output of the morphogene and the output of the math module, and then have them routed into the master input on the 2S, and then have that then go as a mono signal into a Roland MX1 mixer, which is a performance mixer, which I like to use live. But my other secret sauce is, to take those mono signals from my microphone. I have a studio electronics microphone, it comes in mono. The synths are all mono, but how do you get them to stereo? Well, I take my MX1 mixer, bring it into a quarter-inch line. The quarter-inch line brings it in as a mono signal, but then I have a left and right output to my Zoom R24 digital track recorder, which records at 24-bit audio, high quality audio to WAV files, and I take that left and right output from the MX1 and bring it into the left channel 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 into a Zoom R24. And what that does is it takes that mono signal and turns it into a stereo signal. And so then when it gets to, when I start to master it on the Zoom and I start to track it, I've got a stereo signal. I don't have to go into Pro Tools. I don't have to go into Ableton Live or FL Studio and take a mono signal and convert it to stereo. And what I find when you use an analog sense like the Moogs and Arturia and the make noise stuff, that it doesn't degrade the signal, doesn't cause signal compression, doesn't ruin the mix. Because sometimes I've worked with some people, and when you use FL Studio or some other DAWs, that when you go to render, you could have had a lot of effects, and then you don't hear what you thought you had. Once you run it through its rendering, it seems to lose some of the signal. It seems to lose some of the sonic goodness gets pulled out through the compression algorithms. That doesn't happen when you use a Zoom. It's just going to take it as it is. And so I'm able to take the signal as it is and also make it stereo without doing any kind of compression. When that conversion happens, it just gets, because I take a mono and just bring it out, I find that that's a very, I like it because I can freeform it and I can do whatever I want. And then later, if I want to bring it into the kind of DAW world, I can do it. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use like studio techniques, old school. Is like, if I want to take a section of a song, let's say I wrote a 20-minute song, and I find there's a hook at minute 13. I just go back and bring it back into my my digital tape machine, and start from where I think the goodness is. So I'll go and take that, record it as a project on the Zoom, and then like if I like minute 13, but I also want to put minute 2 at the end of that. So then you can just stop the recorder and then do a cut of minute 13, run it for 4 minutes, and then take minute 2, run that for like a minute to get a part there, and then you can do cut and pasting, old school, and you're listening to what you like, and you're marking it, and you're just doing it the old school way. And you don't have to go on the computer, you just do it all at your workstation by the sense, and then if you wanted to go and overdub something, you're right there. And you can just go and make your corrections right at the instruments, and that's the way I like to record. In the future, I want to get an MPX so I could do some of it visually and just see how that handles the compression. I don't really need the samples as much. I kind of create my own stuff, but I kind of like the idea of being able to use the tool like that to move things around, maybe an easier way. But I find I've been doing it this way. It's kind of like I used to use Tascams. It's the same idea. If you use a Tascam 4-tracker on a cassette, that's what you had to do, or reel. That's the techniques you had to do. You have multiple recorders and you'd be moving things from here to there. One thing today, I had just reviewed on the net the new Moog Grandmother, and it's a kind of a revelation that Moog doesn't build a new synth like this, because this synth is not exactly a Model D, but it has the Model D oscillators. It only has 2 of them, but then it also has a third oscillator. It's not really being sold as a 3 oscillator synth, but I believe the LFO can act like an oscillator, and then it has like a mixing oscillator that allows you to do a sine wave, which is kind of old school because you don't see sine waves even on a Model D. It kind of goes back to the old modular synths. Back in the day, they had a sine wave on some of the old system, like 55s had a sine wave. And then when you go look at this thing, the Grandmother, it has it. And then it has the spring reverb, which is really old school. And it's got some old school, they've actually taken some of the VCA and some of the envelope capabilities are from the older modular gear. And it has a look that's kind of weird. It has a look more like the Radio Shack version of the Moog. But I still, when you look at it looks like a 1970 machine, which kind of is cool. And it's a pretty, it's small, but it's hefty. It looks hefty. It looks like it has a really good sound. They didn't really get into it in the demos as much as I'd like. But, if you're looking at all the Moog clones, they actually have Moog create a new machine that has a character. And that character is worth a lot. And I still want a Prophet X because it's things I want to do from a workstation point of view. But in an analog workflow, because I have my Eurorack, I have my DFAM, I have my Mother 32, I wanted to get a subharmonic on. This machine looks like a really good way for Moog to introduce a Eurorack-based control. The one thing I would like Moog to do, though, is I think they should make an enclosure system that's a little bit better than the 3-tiered rack, to actually like load the Mother 32, load the DFAM, and maybe the subharmonicon into not just like this three-tier device, but actually a pure Eurorack module, kind of like the 6U, like the Arturia 6U or 3U. It would be really cool if Moog did that, and it maybe even had an ability to make one that is, a stand-based control system to work with the grandmother. Since they're basically advertising that the grandmother is part of that mother series, it would be good to actually, do that. I mean, I know you could just get a Doffer, you could get a 6U and just like set it up however you want. But if Moog could actually build that themselves to kind of be able to, even introduce the Frogger pedals into like a full system, or even think about fully integrating that idea and maybe making a bigger grandmother with a larger keyboard, um, and then the full kind of like a Waldorf kind of idea, but even like maybe a bigger type of unit that had that kind of ability to be like integrate like the way the 6U system does with the 2S. I think that would be a really cool idea because they basically it's the same thing. I mean, I think a grandmother has a lot to do with the way a 2S is set up and it integrates, except it doesn't have that nice way of connecting the Eurorack modules or the mothers to it in a full system. And I think that would be a very useful thing. But back to the overall story of this song, it's going to be out there on Spotify. It's going to be on Dark Ghost. I feel that it's a pretty good track. I moved some tracks off of Dark Ghost to kind of open this up for it, and I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. It's a very powerful song. It used that kind of splicing method that I just talked about to construct it, and we'll talk to you later. And hope you enjoy it. It's part of the segment on this song.